Welcome to the August 6th, 2019 episode of Reactive Consciousness, our in-depth podcast of what happened this week in our lives. I'm your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And we have another one with the OG2 here. Doesn't happen terribly often, but you know it's summertime and people get busy. So
Don't leave me alone in the recording studio with Vice. Get help. I'm here against my will. I don't want to record the podcast. I can finally say this now that there's no third.
Don't worry, Lotus. We got plenty of water.
Yeah, but is it plain?
Plain water. These days, you actually probably do need to specify that, actually.
Yeah, that's true.
But we actually have some pretty neat things, especially in the fan realm here this week that popped up. I thought were pretty cool mentions. So I wanted to go over these, plus some pretty cool stuff in the fighting game realm, which is pretty cool.
Well, we're recording this podcast during EVO 2019, and we're doing this Sunday night, so it's not quite over yet, but this is the last night of, so there's probably going to be at least one more really big announcement that we're just not going to know what it is yet.
Yeah. Keep in mind, we usually record on Sunday nights, so might be a little bit behind, but I think the big news already got leaked out, so...
No, because they always do Street Fighter last. There's probably going to be something freaking huge, although they have leaked a lot of really big news already.
The biggest news, I think, is already leaked. So I'm going to go ahead and go right out with it. So new characters leaked out, and it wasn't even just like a small leak or like a potential leak. It was like pictures and shit.
Well, this is EVO. They always do that.
Yeah. What, they always leak?
No, it's not leaked. They always advertise in trailers. Like the EVO is when all the fighting game fans are watching. So it's like, here's a new fighting game character coming out, and everyone flips out. That's how we found out about that like BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle game's existence in the first place. That Ruby's crew be part of it. People were flipping out. Like Geese in Tekken 7. I think those were EVO announcements, or if not EVO, then some other major fighting game tournament.
Yeah, but those came out like at their at their prescribed time. These were actually like leaked out before the official announcements.
Okay.
So that's the big difference here. So these are big ones. These are popular characters for Street Fighter V are being added. Poison's probably the most popular one. She's really only been part of Tekken or Street Fighter Cross Tekken, right? No, she was added to 4 later on, right?
Well, I mean, she's a Street Fighter character no, she's Final Fight.
No, she's a Final Fight character first.
That's true, and then she joined Street Fighter with like Hugo.
Well, no, the first time that she was a playable fighting game character was probably the Street Fighter fighting game, or the Streets of Rage. Final Fight, Jesus. The Final Fight, really terrible fighting game.
Oh, the Saturn one.
But
yep.
But after that, I think she was only playable in Street Fighter Cross Tekken was the first time.
Yeah, finally a game people actually played.
And then they added her to 4.
Yeah.
But she hasn't been a part of 5. So that's really cool. She's a fan favorite. A lot of people love her. Actually, quite a lot of people of the trans community love her for reasons we won't get into, I'm sure. But trans icon in an early, showing up early in a series, but really cool stuff for fans of her and the trans community that supports her. I'm sure there are some people that don't like her as well, so I'm sure it's not talking for everybody. But there's also E Honda, who's a... I'm surprised E Honda's not in there to begin with.
Yeah, he's a classic. Well, I refer to Street Fighter 2 as the classic because... who plays Street Fighter 1. But yeah,
Street Fighter 2 is the big game.
Yeah, E Honda's from the quote beginning.
Yeah. So E Honda was like the first character I really knew how to play as, just because you could just slap,
press punch a bunch of times. Same thing with Chun-Li, you just press kick a bunch of times.
Yeah, so you can get your hands on electronic Honda.
That's what it stood for the whole time.
No, Edmund Honda, actually, but that's really cool. E Honda is a cool character. Loved his design, and I think his design for 5 is pretty cool too. So, but there's also Lucia. I don't know who Lucia's from.
She's from like Final Fight 3, isn't she?
Oh, I have no idea.
Because like Final Fight like changed its roster up a bunch. Final Fight 2 had Maki as a playable character. I think Lucia was from 3. She's just one of the playable characters.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think she's there are a bunch of characters that never returned until now.
It's like Streets of Rage. Like now we have Skate in Streets of Rage 2. Now we have Dr. Zen in Streets of Rage 3. Like, all right, new character. So yeah, Lucia's from Final Fight 3, I believe.
Okay, yeah. No, you're right. It's Lucia and Dean's the other one that never came back, and Guy and Hagar are in 3 as well. So.
I don't even know if I know who Dean is.
Yeah, he had like electric powers, something like that.
Sure.
Yeah. But against the Skullcross gang in Final Fight 3. This is the first returning character, I think, from Final Fight 3.
I didn't realize it was a different gang. Like, there's Mad Gear in the first game, apparently Skullcross in 3. Who was 2? Do you know?
I think it's Mad Gear again. I don't know. Who the hell knows?
and honestly, who really cares?
Yeah,
beat up bad guys is fine.
Yeah. And Carlos and Maki in the second one.
I don't remember Carlos either. I mainly remember Maki because I saw her in Capcom vs. SNK 2, and I was like, who's this character? Like, from Final Fight 2, like, oh, okay, sure.
Yeah. Carlos had a sword, which was a novelty. Yeah. His special move was using his sword. So yeah, the sequels don't get many reprisals just for whatever reason. I guess Capcom doesn't love them quite as much, so it's really cool to see something a character like that being added.
Yeah, that's interesting, just because it's like, hey, remember this character?
Yeah,
it was like when they had for also Street Fighter V, when they had. Oh no, I forgot his name. The not Andre guy, the giant guy.
Abigail.
Yeah, Abigail. I was like, what? Who saw that guy?
Abigail is like a really strange choice.
He was
gigantic. Oh sure, he's even bigger than Andre. But
yeah, well, that was the thing. Like, it was like Hugo and Abigail. Abigail's somehow even bigger. Like, this can't be.
Yeah. So it's, the second one was Mad Gear as well, but the Skullcross gang is the second one. Of course, it's probably just the Mad Gear gang, just dressed up or whatever.
Yeah, Dr. X. I mean, Wily.
But yeah. I mean, this is exciting news. Street Fighter V is continuing to get better. It had certainly a botched launch. We should have talked about that as a botched launch. Jeez.
Oh my god, that's a good point. They catered to the tourney crowd, which I understand why, but guess what? The hundreds of thousands of people who play Street Fighter aren't all going to EVO.
And they didn't even like it as much as the last one either.
Well, they wanted to rush the release date to have it line up with some announcement for EVO or whatever, so like they were missing like a bunch of modes. I think they were missing arcade mode in a freaking fighting game. It's like, dude, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, going right along with that, there was another character announcement, which is really cool. Haomaru was announced for Soul Calibur 6, which is pretty cool.
What an appropriate choice. I can't believe he hasn't crossed over before.
Yeah, I mean, Samurai Showdown characters all have weapons, so they fit right in with Soul Calibur. So
you know what I would love to see is Genjuro as well.
I mean, I'm just happy. You had the most popular character in that series, the front man.
Yeah. So now you got Yoshi.
Cool.
Now you kind of, he's not even really a guest character anymore, but you kind of have like 4 universes now. You got Mitsurugi from Soul Calibur.
Oh yeah.
You have Yoshimitsu, who's from Soul Calibur. I mean Tekken. You have Geralt, and now you have Haomaru. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, this is really neat. this is also cool because it gives you a reason to go back to each installment with Soul Calibur, because they're unique characters in each installment. It makes it worth it. I would still go back to playing 4. No problem.
Cool.
Yeah.
The only, I mean, we talked about this before, but Soul Calibur 3 is the only one that didn't have an actual guest character, just like equipment that kind of made you into Cosmos. But Soul Calibur 3 at the time felt like it was the final game. It was the Mortal Kombat Armageddon of the Soul Calibur series.
They killed off a couple characters too. Like they killed off Kalik, which was a main for a lot of people. They did a bunch of things like that, I think.
Not in 3 by a long shot.
Yeah.
Kalik's an Edgemaster now. He's been around the whole time.
I thought they killed him or something.
No, I don't know. They don't kill characters in Soul Calibur. I mean, maybe as part of the lore, they come back evil or whatever, like Nightmare from Siegfried, but, like, Kilik's fine. But no, what I was going to bring up, though, is that they had, like, every character that was playable before then, what really amused me, I forgot if they did this, if they had, like, Li Long, who was basically Maxi before Maxi from, like, Soul Blade. But what really got me was that they had Arthur, which was, he was Mitsurugi, but Korea I don't know if they still have it, but they had like an anti-samurai depiction like law on their media, so don't worry, it's Arthur who inexplicably fights with a katana, and they made him blonde and everything, so like you could play as him in Soul Calibur 3, which I thought was pretty cool.
That kind of reminds me of Kinsaiden. Kinsaiden, you have like a blonde samurai.
Yeah. He didn't have a story mode or anything, but if you wanted to play as him in multiplayer, then sure. And it was also cool because I forgot when it was. I forgot if it was 3 or 4 where you could finally play as Amy, because she showed up in in the opening movie in 2, and then you could actually play as her. And again, I forgot 3 or 4, which was a pretty cool thing to do.
Yeah, 3 is where I fell off because I just didn't like. First of all, it was PS2 exclusive, and I had all 3 systems back then, and like I only ever bought like a PS2 game if I had to. You know what I mean? Like I was never excited to buy a PS2 game because like it had the worst graphics of the 3.
I loved it. Like my friend had a PS2 in college. We just played the hell out of Soul Calibur 3 back then.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe I just got burnt out on the mission mode and stuff like that. I murdered the mission modes of 1 and 2. So like
I murdered 1 like you wouldn't believe. 2,
yeah.
I completed it, but I was getting tired. 3,
I got everything. Yeah.
3 had like that sort of campaign mode where you moved through a map and then got into fights. I quite like that, actually.
Well, that was the way it was in the other 2 games, right?
Never. Like in 1 and 2,
they had like
select
a
an episode.
Oh, okay, yeah, but it was like on a map. Yeah, well, anyway, I dropped off there, and I never really picked up the series again. But I used to love it so much. I especially the first one. Jesus.
4 felt a little more bare bones, and 5 even more so. 5 was a crippling disappointment in that regard, but the gameplay and the graphics and the characters have only improved.
I just like that. SNK is getting some love here.
Yes.
SNK has always been on the verge of bankruptcy since like the early 2000s.
It's freaking insane.
They've gone out of business several times in the meantime, but somebody keeps reviving it, and the people that have been there the whole time have kind of kept coming back somehow. So I just love that, and I think they're better than they have been in a long time.
Like King of Fighters and Samurai Showdown came back in a really big way, and they're doing the whole anniversary collection, and they have the heroine fighting game, whatever it was called, the sequel to Gals Fighters, so like that at least got people's attention. All of a sudden they're pumping out a bunch of cool stuff, and like high profile stuff too.
Yeah, I think they're planning on coming out with a new Metal Slug as well, which is pretty cool. And they're making good money off of those arcade archives releases as well.
Oh yeah.
So and they're great ports. I love what they're doing with those. So moving on.
Actually, before we move on, I just want to bring up a few more EVO reveals because these are pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So we have 3 more. One of them is, I had mentioned the cross tag battle game before. 4 characters were announced for like wave 2 of new characters. 2 of them I've never heard of. Blitztank and Akatsuki from something called Blitzkampf. I'm not familiar with that. Yumi, one of the fighters from Senran Kagura, which kind of threw me off. And
Yeah.
Neo from Ruby, so another Ruby character. She's like well, she was an evil henchman. Now she's kind of going off doing her own thing. She's interesting because she like doesn't talk. She's mute, so I guess the voice actor will have a pretty easy time of it, just breathing, I guess. They're probably one of the craziest reveals. It was just a teaser. You didn't really see anything. But for Tekken 7, they showed like a codec conversation implying Snake might show up for Tekken 7.
Wow.
That'd be
That's pretty cool.
Freaking nuts.
Well, was it David Hayter's voice or something?
I couldn't tell because someone just posted on Twitter and you only saw the big projector screen and you heard the audience cheer, so I couldn't really hear anything. But like the subtitle said something like, wow, this is some cool Tekken tournament or whatever. Everyone was like, what? Like, it was insane. It was like when Geese was revealed. People flipped out. And the final thing, which I don't know if there's like a proper audio version on YouTube. I think it's just, again, you hear the audience cheering, but at least you can hear the background this time, is there was a big cinematic reveal for what looks like a new Guilty Gear game. And the end appears to be a teaser, like a quick shot of one new character that we've never seen before in Guilty Gear. So it looks like it's still got the Sard animation with like,
oh yeah,
it plays 2D but everything's 3D. It looks gorgeous. Guilty Gear always looks gorgeous.
Yeah, I wish I could be excited about the Guilty Gear games, but they just iterate too quickly for me to keep up. Well, you really need to play that game constantly.
You don't have a problem with, or you have? Are you saying you have a problem with Accent Core Plus, like F or whatever the hell it's called?
Well, see, like I bought Zerd when it first came out, and I was like, okay, this is cool because I'll be able to play this for a little while, and of course they reiterated like only about a year later.
Yeah, there's like Revelator.
Yeah, and then they made a sequel to that, I think, too. So, like...
Yeah, like Star 2 or something. I'm not quite sure. Like, it's never... I always find it so difficult to follow the titles of BlazBlue and Guilty Gear games.
Yeah, because none of them make any sense. It's
Guilty Gears are a little easier to understand, but then they start throwing out names like Revelator. I'm like, I don't know. But BlazBlue, like... I don't know. Chrono Phantasma. I don't know what any of these things are.
Yeah, I love playing these games, but like, there's no way to keep up. I mean, you have to constantly spend money in order to have
wait till
like,
the PS5 comes
version.
out and play the last PS4 game because they're not going to make another PS4 game. Then you'll be, in a way, caught up.
Yeah, I mean, even at least with like the Mortal Kombat games, you have a couple of years. I mean, that kind of thing.
Well, Mortal Kombat keeps it easy. Like 10, full edition, 11. Probably full edition. Like you don't have to wonder.
It was XXL, I think, or XLL.
Yeah, 10 was XL, which is a clever name.
Yeah.
And 9 was the complete edition with a K. But like again, it's release, full release, full release, 9, 10, 11. Like with Guilty Gear and BlazBlue, I honestly don't know which game is the newest based on the titles. I have no idea.
Yeah. You might even just buy the wrong one by accident.
I don't know if it's the updated version. I don't know which game is supposed to come first in the chronology. But Mortal Kombat, 9, 10, 11. You can't mess this up.
Yeah. It's a pain in the ass, but I love the funny thing is I love playing these, but like just keeping up with them is ridiculous. I'm a casual fan at best of fighting games.
Yeah, I would play story mode on easy.
Yeah, exactly. Like I kind of just want to listen to music and enjoy the aesthetics and all that stuff, and occasionally play a friend. Like when you come over or something, we'll play like a couple matches or something. But I just can't do it.
Yep.
But this is a cool one that a lot of shmup fans have been waiting for here. Jamestown Plus was finally announced for Switch and Steam. Did you ever play Jamestown?
I never heard of it.
Okay, so Jamestown is a Revolutionary War style like aesthetic combined with steampunk space kind of stuff on Mars, which is kind of funny.
So what does that mean? Like you're on Mars fighting with like wildly outdated tech?
Kinda, yeah.
Like muskets and shit. Muskets with pointless dials and watches on them.
it kind of has like a cross between like Revolutionary War times and spaceships. It's kind of funny.
So do the spaceships all line up and then just fire at each other, and whoever lives lives?
Yeah, so basically you're fighting the British on Mars.
That's so weird.
Yeah, it is weird. It's a lot of fun though. It was originally on Steam and also PS4. The PS4 version got a plus version with extra levels, and I believe an extra, some extra characters that you could pick.
Mm-hmm.
So people on Steam were kind of slighted because there was more content in the PS4 version.
Yeah.
The Steam release is going to be a free upgrade for anybody who owns the original game.
That's cool.
And the Switch version is just going to be all complete. This was a really fun game. It is a Western-developed 2D shmup. It is it's unique in that it is a vertical shmup in that your ships are firing upwards, and flying upwards, but it's a widescreen game as well.
That makes sense because the Revolutionary War thing. You're all like actually lining up.
Well, it's a shmup. It's like any
but
other
a
shmup
widescreen
game.
vertical. Like, are you lining up in rows with your buddies or what?
No, you're flying around on your ships, just like any other shmup.
So it's just a strange aspect ratio thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But what's kind of cool about it is that it's one of the very few 2D shmups that has 4-player simultaneous play, which is pretty fun.
with widescreen vertical, I guess that can make sense.
Mm-hmm. It's a great game, and it has a really fun sense of humor. So it kind of like has a Jules Verne aesthetic. Like, remember those like those painted Jules Verne covers of those like classic books when we were kids?
Not really. Like,
No.
I have a Jules Verne compilation, but it's one of those Barnes and Noble compilations where it's just
Gotcha.
like an artsy single cover. So I don't remember. I mean, I kind of know what the aesthetic is that you're talking about, but I don't remember what the covers
look like.
Yeah,
it's like a airbrush kind of painting kind of thing.
Yeah, like those like Tom Swift books or whatever.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, it's just a fun game, and after a long time of like inaction from the developer, they finally confirmed that the complete package is coming to Steam and Switch, which is really nice. Going along with this, Game Paradise Cruisin' Mix, which had previously been released for PS4 and Steam, is now getting a release on Switch and with a physical copy, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And the physical copy comes with all of the DLC on it, which is really neat.
Yeah, that's always appreciated.
So Game Paradise is a cool game, kind of like how Parodius, a better known shmup series, which is like a parody of and kind of celebration of Konami properties.
Mm-hmm.
Game Paradise is a shmup that is oddly a parody and also a celebration of Jalico properties.
Tell me they got some Juggernaut shoutouts in there.
No, there might be some in there. Who the hell knows?
No fucking way. If there were, I could not believe it. I mean, the funny thing is, I'm the only one who would be able to recognize any of them.
There's some obscure shit in this game because you there's like a background that is one of the levels is just a game center in the background, and there's all kinds of games being played on the background.
Oh, okay.
So
who's gonna play fucking Juggernaut?
Yeah, I
Except
don't know.
For me.
I don't know. There are characters from like the old Truxton or Tatsujin game, which was like the very first, like one of the very first bullet hell games by Taoplan. I mean, there's a whole bunch of cool characters in this game. You could be the character from City Connection. Like all these like weird obscure Jalico characters.
Wait, actually, that what was the first one you said? That Truxton or whatever it was called?
Yeah, so that's the shmup with that bomb where it like
the skull bomb on the Genesis.
Yeah, the skull bomb.
Yeah,
okay.
I never would have heard of that if not for happening to see like your box like in your room years ago.
Yeah, no, it's a cool ass game.
Like that was one of the screenshots on the back. This giant skull thing. I was like, "What is that?" Like, "Oh, it's your bomb." Like,
Oh,
oh,
and you can use that bomb in this game too.
oh, nice.
Yeah, she's one of the DLC characters, but she's included in the Switch version.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that's really cool. So yeah. The standard edition is a copy of Game Paradise Cruisin' Mix Special for Switch. It comes with downloadable content in previously released versions that included on the cart, including Clarice, Homaru, Banto, the voice pack, and Tatsujin. I think the voice pack is like they added like original voice actors, that kind of thing.
That's cool.
This game is really neat too because it was originally a game on the Saturn. And they basically made that version obsolete with this one. There's so much like extra stuff, which is really neat. They're also coming out with a limited edition that's $100. That's not too bad for the stuff they give you. Comes with an art book on top of the other things, a vinyl album and a CD soundtrack set. You see, that's worth it.
Yeah, it's not often that a collector's edition comes with vinyl and CD. I don't know if I've heard that before.
Yeah, 21 reproduction Jalico game flyers, which I'm actually excited about. I think that's really neat. And custom collectible coin, which I don't really care about that. But the game flyers is cool. I think that's really neat. So yeah, this is a really nice package. It is worth the $40. I would definitely pick it up if you're a shmup fan. It's a good game, and you may learn about some characters that you never knew about for some games you didn't really know about. So Jalico has a very colorful history. They're kind of like Data East. They weren't always the best, but they were always interesting.
Yeah, distinctive.
Yeah, exactly. But Jalico probably has a better track record even than Data East. Data East has some weird bullshit, but
well, that's, I don't know. It's interesting because Jalico's products may have been more successful, but
yeah.
But we've heard, like, we'll see a game and be like, oh, that's a weird Data East game. Like, even the games we know about, we don't necessarily know that they are Jalico titles.
Yeah, I mean, Jalico is like Bases Loaded. That was like one of the big ones. Like, it's just like there's tons of Jalico games that like you just never associated with them or just don't even look back to. Yeah,
like, even though their games did better, you'll never say, oh, classic Jalico, but like Data East, some game that sold terribly, you're like, that is definitely Data East. Like, I can tell by looking at it. Look at this weird shit, yeah.
Trio the Punch, of course.
Well, I mean, that probably didn't sell well because it's Japan PS2 only.
Like, it was an arcade.
I know it's an arcade, but that doesn't sell. And who the fuck was putting money into that arcade machine anyway?
No one. Not even back then.
Yeah, especially not back then. They're like, what is this? At
least
now, they're like,
now,
remember that weird game?
Yeah. Well, moving on from that, there's some cool remasters announced. This is actually, I think this is really neat. So, they announced that they're working on remasters of both the Bard's Tale trilogy and Wasteland, the original Wasteland.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So these games have recently been released as, playable on current systems kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But they're actually coming out with like remasters, with updated graphics and interfaces and stuff like that. So
yeah, that's cool.
I'm excited about that, especially for Wasteland because that's a really old game and tough to go back to. In some ways, it could use some, some modern niceties so you can enjoy the story. Wasteland is of course the spiritual predecessor to the Fallout series. So it's historically significant and also has a modern sequel. And Bard's Tale is very, very much one of the big classic Western RPG series, along with Ultima and Wizardry. Bard's Tale's right there with them.
Yeah, that was back on like the NES, wasn't it?
Bard's Tale was even before that. It was back on the computer.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't even remember there being a Bard's Tale for NES, to tell you the truth. I think, the first Bard's Tale game that I remember being on console is probably the PS2 one, which is like its own thing. It's not
Yeah,
even.
I've heard of that one, and it
Yeah.
was on NES, 1985.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay. Well, I've never played it, but
yeah, I haven't either.
this is one of those games that is pretty cool too because you could carry your save file from game to game, just
That's
kind of like
cool.
Wizardry. Wizardry was like the first game that I really know of that did that.
I
So
know that oh no, what was it called? Not King's Quest, not Space Quest, Questra Glory.
oh, okay,
You
yeah,
could carry your save over.
yeah, that was a more RPG
Yes,
focused adventure game, if I remember right.
yes, it
Okay,
was Sierra's. Well, yeah, it was
like
Sierra's
a
version of
hybrid
that.
game, kind of. But yeah, Bard's Tale is known for its dialogue. It has a better sense of humor than Wizardry or Ultima, though those games did have their funny moments, for sure. But Bard's Tale is like just like some of the dialogue options are really funny,
Hmm.
and the reimagining on the PS2 and original Xbox really goes whole hog with that. A lot of people love that game.
Excellent.
Yeah, but this is a good way to probably take a look at the original trilogy again with all the modern niceties. So moving on from that, a record of Lotus War Metroidvania was announced for the West. Whenever this pops up, I just don't know anything about this series. I think
Yeah,
it's
I know it's classic. It's been around forever, but yeah, I've never touched it.
yeah. There's like a ton of media associated with it, but I never know where to start or whether it's any good because people don't talk about it all that much. But it pops up like every 10 years or so. Like there's something going on with it. It must be one of those classic manga or anime series that is really loved in Japan that just doesn't have much resonance over here. But I know it mostly from the Dreamcast title, which is similar to Diablo or like the Planescape Torment
Oh
games.
wow.
It's very similar to those. It's like an overhead isometric dungeon crawler. Um, so this one's cool though in that you heard me in the last couple episodes mention the Metroidvania Luna Knights.
Hmm.
It is the Toho flavored Metroidvania. It is made by the same team that made that,
Okay.
um, and it's considered to be a really good one. They also made the Shin Megami Tensei Metroidvania that was given out for free a
Nice.
little while ago, and I think a game called Pharaoh, which has like a cute bunny rabbit and then like a pith helmet as its spokesperson. But I'm always a fan. This game looks gorgeous. This company has a good track record. Seems like they only make one type of game, but with a different license. That's okay with me. I love Metroidvanias. Speaking of, I'm getting very far in Bloodstained.
Oh,
I
very nice.
I actually made some major progress this weekend. Uh, I'm doing a lot of extra stuff, so I'm stalling, but I'm like right before the very end of the game.
Yeah. I
So
mean, I know that feeling. That's how I play all the Yakuza games. Like, it's like pulling teeth to get me to actually advance the game because I'm doing all the side stuff first.
yeah, because Bloodstained is a lot of fun. There's a lot of like sub things that you could do. Like you could do the cooking quests and things like
Right,
that.
right, yeah.
And that's just a lot of fun. And the things that I'm concentrating on are doing all of the recipes, the food quests, and also getting all of the shards. Almost every single enemy will give you a shard if as one of their drops. Which and shards are like abilities or
Oh,
something
they
that you
did
could
that
do.
in like I forgot if it was like the GBA or the DS Castlevanias, right? Like you get their soul,
Yeah,
whatever it was.
yeah. I think the first one to do that with every single enemy is probably Aria of Sorrow, if I'm
Oh,
not mistaken.
you know what's by the way, you know what's amazing to watch is you've got to see a task, a tool assisted speedrun of maybe it was Area of Sorrow, where it's like a 100% soul run where they use all sorts of weird manipulation, like RNG manipulation that there's no way you could possibly do in real life on the fly, and even if you knew
Wow.
how to, execution would be impossible. So like every time they kill an enemy, it definitely drops a soul. So they're like wiping a screen, and like the souls are like struggling to catch up with the players. It's fucking ridiculous. Like it is. This is something that humans will never achieve, like ever. Like there are certain things with enough practice you might be able to pull off. This is utterly impossible without a machine.
Yeah.
It's amazing to watch.
Well, I'm at the point where there are some really strong boss battles, like optional boss battles.
Yeah.
And some of them I've had to kill multiple times because they won't drop their fucking shard. So they're very difficult.
That's when I gave up with Peace Walker. I got just about every single weapon in the game. I think the only drop I don't have is the final piece for the 4-man slingshot, that stupid 4-player insta-kill weapon. And it's because you have to kill...
The bosses just wouldn't drop it.
Well, it's not even like I kept trying and they just wouldn't drop it, but like... Yeah, it's like the Gear Rex. I have to keep beating that for a chance. And I beat it once. I was like, I'm not gonna fight this thing. Like, who knows how many times? Forget it. I didn't even bother.
Yeah, there are a couple annoying enemies in the game that can only be triggered in certain circumstances. Like, it's cool that they have unique circumstances in which they only show up in.
Yeah.
But as a result, if they don't drop their secret, it's a hell of a do to make them respawn, because you have to do that all over again.
You know, Skies of Arcadia was really bad about that. Like, there are some enemies that have rare drops, but by rare, I mean like 3%. It's like insane. And there are even some bosses that have a chance of dropping something. Like De Loco, there's like 2 fights with him where he may drop something, and if he doesn't, then he just doesn't. And if you're really neurotic about this stuff, you're going to have to reload your save, because like you don't refight that version of him. It's really annoying.
Luckily, Bloodstained is good about that. Any unique boss that you cannot fight again will have a 100% drop if they have a shard.
That's pretty nice. Because like even during my Skies Let's Play, I'm like, this is my second time fighting this boss because I wanted this. It's like, come on,
just stupid. Yeah,
like, why would you do?
That's just stupid. But
that's one of those things where like you talk to your friend who's perfected the game, and you're like, but do you have this piece of equipment? And they're like, what? Like I did it. Like that actually happened to a friend of ours. From like I knew him in like high school. He had done everything there was to do in Xenogears, and another friend of ours is like, well, did you beat Alpha Weltall, the fight you're supposed to lose? And he's like, what? Like it has like a unique drop. It's like, get the fuck out of here. It's ridiculous.
Well, in this one, probably the hardest boss in the game is an optional boss. Actually, there are several optional bosses that are very difficult. And that's the way it should be. Optional bosses should be like the difficult ones. But you're given a hit list during the game. You know, a mission to kill such and such an amount of demons to get a reward. You know, it's part of the quest system in this game. So this isn't a spoiler. One of the hit list is basically I told you about this before. They gave you basically lists of character names from Castlevania. Like this person was killed by this one. You have to go take revenge on them.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
So one of the very first ones is one that you can't get to until the very freaking end of the game.
Oh, that's such a dick move. Have I missed it? Where is it?
You're anticipating it the whole time because of what it is.
Okay.
So the hit list just says IGA, which is Iga.
Oh no. That's great.
And he is fucking hard, as you might think. So he's guess what? He's dressed up as Dracula. And,
wow, I mean, he's done this shit in real life, so I'm not surprised that he would do it in the game.
Yeah, and his signature move is throwing a glass of wine. He's
obviously done that in real life at least twice on camera.
Just like Dracula in Symphony of the Night.
What is a man? A miserable pile of secrets.
Yeah. So he throws it, and then like pools of magic shoot up from the
That's hysterical.
the ground, and he fights like Dracula too. Like he shoots a triple fire blast and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's hysterical.
He's incredibly difficult. You in order to beat him, you need to have mastered like basically like breaking the game.
Okay.
Because like that's the only way. Like you need to have picked all of the right equipment that will continuously do damage to him.
Okay.
And even then, he might murder you.
Well, actually, like I was saying with Xenogears, that's what you have to do to beat the Alpha Weltall. You have to like change your character to equip stuff you would never otherwise have equipped, and just have them just put all of their points into evade, and even then, it's still chance. Like, just like I hope you beat him before he beats you. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, you need to put on fire resist, definitely, because he hits you with so many flame attacks that like that do over 100 damage, which is stupid. And he's difficult to hit because he's constantly teleporting, and I would expect no less. I mean, I'm glad he was as difficult as he was because it makes it that epic. Yeah, and I beat him after trying quite a few times, but he gives you that the shard that would give you the wine tossed ability. So it's really cool. It's really cool.
What does that do? Like insta kill people?
No, it just like shoots up a pyre of magic when it hits the ground.
I was wondering if it'd be like a stupid move where you like lightly toss a glass of wine, but it'll just murder anything it hits. Because like this is a weird thing to bring up, but the Hokuto no Ken, Fist of the North Star PS2 fighting game had that. Like it was made by the Arxis Works guys, so it has Guilty Gear style insta kills like BlazBlue does, Guilty Gear does, and so Mamiya's was, and this is from the manga and the anime, but she takes a bottle of some kind of alcohol or gasoline or something, throws it in the air, and then shoots it, which causes it to like shatter and all the fire and the glass falls down. But it's just kind of silly because if you get hit with like a fragment of the glass, then you're just dead. It's like, what?
That sucks.
Yeah, it's not terribly hard to avoid, but it's just like that killed me.
Well, thankfully, I've gone back and gotten all of the shards from all of the ones that I missed organically.
Very nice.
So basically the only ones left are from enemies that I haven't encountered, and I have a 96% bestiary.
Mm-hmm.
So it's getting there.
Yeah.
And every single one that I've encountered, I have now. Some of them had like a very rare drop. When I travel around in games like this that I know has like a drop rate, I'm not focused on any other stat other than luck because I just don't I want to give myself the best chance, and then when I get to a boss I'll switch to like attack based or something like that or whatever. So but I'm having such a fun time with this game, and all of the different abilities and stuff are fun to upgrade. Trying to use all of the stuff that's dropped in order to advance your character and all that stuff. It's so much fun. Mm-hmm. I'll probably end up beating the game pretty soon. I don't know if I'll end up cooking all of the materials or doing every single quest, but I can tell you that I'll get every shard. Definitely, because I'm almost there.
Just the idea of gathering all the recipes, it makes me think of the Tales of games.
Oh yeah,
where like some of the recipes were secret. But the thing with Tales of games is that, I mean, I'm sure it works very differently in Bloodstained, but in Tales of, when you finish a battle, it'll ask you, do you want to make something? And based on your cooking proficiency, you will have a percentage chance success rate.
Oh no, it's not that bad.
Okay, because I remember like one of the most basic things in Tales of you can make is a sandwich. It's just really funny to see the message like you failed at making a sandwich. I just would love to know what you had to do.
What happened?
Yeah, like did you drop the bread on the ground, or like there's not much to do with making a sandwich. You put stuff in other stuff.
In this game, what you do is there are two main shops. There's one where you can buy like items and armor and things like that, and then across from it is a place where you could do alchemy in order to get items or
Mm-hmm.
armor and stuff like that, or increase the abilities of your shards and that kind of thing. So what you do is you can actually cook there. It's always 100%, but you just need to have all the ingredients.
Okay.
So what you could do is once you make a dish, uh, what you should do is immediately eat it because it gives you a permanent stat boost.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so every new recipe that you do that you haven't had before, you haven't ingested before, will give you a permanent stat boost. So
And
just eat it right away.
what if you eat it a second time? You just heal?
Correct. You
Okay.
will get whatever it gives you, like a temporary luck boost, or most of it's just health and stuff like that.
Sure.
But some of them can heal you up way more than even the high potions can. Um, so they're good to have around. It's good to have meals with you. They can be cheaper to put together than a high potion or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the good thing is that you don't need to cook you don't need to collect the ingredients all over again. If you want to make it a second time, every single one that you have already cooked and eaten uh, shows up in the shop, so you can
Very
buy it for
nice.
money. What's up?
No, I said very nice. But
Yeah,
like,
so
but if you wanted to save money,
you
then you could just find the ingredients.
correct.
Okay.
There's some crossover too. I mean, some of the dishes actually have other dishes in them, so sometimes you need to you need to build them in two layers, which is kind of
Gotcha.
cool. Which is kind of cool, but
Lobster stuffed with tacos.
basically, like for instance, fish and chips is one of the things that you need to make. You need to make French fries first or fried potatoes first.
Right, right.
And fried potatoes is a meal on its own. So it's pretty neat. I really like the way that this game is set up. So luckily I found the like the extra routes and you can beat the game like very quickly, but with only having found like 50% of the map.
Oh, sure.
But it'll just give you a game over screen if you try to beat it. So luckily I'm at almost 100% map completion, which is pretty nice. So moving on from that, this is just a quick thing. Rocket Android has I think 3 games by a company called Platine Dispositif, which were some Dojin titles that were on Steam, and they were all taken down recently, unfortunately. So these are games that were pretty popular in the Dojin scene. They include the game Bunny Must Die, Gundamian Recollection, which is probably their most popular game. Its sequel Gundenline, and Higata Hapa. So I know that sounds like gibberish to a whole bunch of people, but it's a shame because these were pretty popular Dojin titles if you were into Dojin shmups, and unfortunately they were removed from the store. Now, it's not a complete tragedy because apparently there are plans to re-release these games at some point, but there are no details on how they're going to be released or when or anything like that. So it just kind of stinks in the meantime because it just stinks that we won't know what's going on with them for a little bit, or even if they'll be available in their original forms either.
Yeah.
So it's just a bummer. They were like early Dojin games that had shown up on Steam. You used to have to buy them and find them, but Bunny Must Die was quite a fun game. That was a Metroidvania. So it's a shame that They were just, obliterated from the internet for the moment. So here's some fan translation news, and they're all like pretty big deals. So the first one is a little bit on the lighter side, but I enjoyed this game. So Dragon Quest Heroes Rocket Slime 3 was fan translated. I'm a big fan of the Rocket Slime games, particularly the one on DS that we got officially. That would be Rocket Slime 2, technically. Rocket Slime 1 was for GBA, and I think that one is fan translated as well. So it's really cool to see the third one get fan translated, which is pretty neat. If you ever want to check out like an underrated, fun, kind of like Zelda-ish in a way. It's not like a straight-up RPG. It like has Zelda. It's more presented like an adventure game. It's a lot of fun. I love the original or the second Rocket Slime game, which we got for DS. A lot of fun. So I might check this out eventually. I don't know if you ever played them, either of them.
Nah, I've never played any of the Dragon Quest anything.
Okay. Well, this is one to start with. It's not like an old school RPG or anything like that. It's just fun, and it was a cool game because like what you had to do is you fought in these gigantic mechs against the bad guy who was also in a gigantic mech, and essentially what you did was you flung like all kinds of garbage at each other, and you collected it during your adventure. So it was a lot of fun. It also had like a really funny translation too, so it's definitely worth your time. So this one is of relevance to you. Did you read about the fan translation of Mizurna Falls?
Never heard of it.
Okay, so this is a Twin Peaks inspired open world game that was only released in Japan for the PS1. So it has horror elements in it as well. So this is a type of game that you would like to play, actually.
Curious.
Yeah, and that finally got a fan translation. I'm excited. This is one of the PS1 games that I really wanted to see fan translated, and it finally was. So I'm pretty excited for this. It's kind of funny in that it was a game that like took place in like a Western setting, and it never got a U.S. release or European release. Very kind of odd. It says Mizurna Falls tells the story of Matthew, a kid in a small town who's trying to solve the disappearance of classmate Emma Lowland. So very similar to Twin Peaks. Matthew explores an open world of Mizurna Falls, talking to people, investigating, and fighting against the clock that counts down for 7 days. Once the time's up, the game is over.
Huh.
So might have some Majora's Mask kind of stuff going on with it as well. So I'm excited. If this ever shows up on your channel, I will watch that.
Yeah, I might have to look for a fan translated copy then.
Yep. So here, and the final one is this is a big deal for especially right now. The Super Famicom Fire Emblem game Thracia 776 has finally been fan translated. This was considered by a lot of people to be the fan translation killer. They were calling it. I think this is the final Fire Emblem that from that time. I think of any era that hadn't been fan translated. I think all of them are now. Pretty sure. Yeah. So this one was just programmed in a very, very odd way. This was the final one that was released for the Super Famicom before they moved on to the N64.
Well, N64 didn't really end up happening. I think like Path of Radiance might have been
no, I meant Nintendo
intended,
in general.
But yeah, then GameCube.
I meant Nintendo in general.
Oh, okay.
So, apparently this game was just a nightmare for fan translators. Apparently it was programmed in a very unique way. People were calling it spaghetti code, where it just was everywhere. Like parts at the beginning would reference parts at the end, and like all kinds of portions of it were everywhere. And anytime you would try to add some English text to it, it would fall apart and break the entire game. So it was considered by a lot of people to be impossible. But they managed to do it. Apparently, there had been like a fan translated script going around. So like, if you wanted to play the game, you would need to play it with like a script.
Oh, I've seen stuff like that before. Yeah, where you just have like a Word document open and you keep looking back and forth at your computer and your whatever you're playing
it's
the
a
game
nightmare. It's a nightmare. But this is really cool. They were able to finish it. So really cool stuff. Like I said before, I'm probably not going to play it, but I think it's a big deal, especially for big fans of the series, and especially when they're in all of their glory right now. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's all I have for this week. Lotus, do you have any other quick things that you wanted to go over before we call it a week?
Not really. The things that I had were at the front of the show with those latest EVO announcements. I just look forward to whatever their final announcements may be. Maybe they'll do an official announcement of the Street Fighter V characters.
Sure. Well, then that's the show for this week. We want to please remember to subscribe to the Corrective Consciousness YouTube and Soundcloud pages, and ring the bell as well in order to get notifications for us. You know that we are very consistent. We post our videos every Tuesday and Thursday. So it would be nice if you could make sure that it came up in your feed. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. Also, we have run out of fan questions for the Corrective Consciousness podcast on Thursday. So, please drop a few for us, just so we could have some material. You can also catch us on Thursday for our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, Twitter, Battle.net, and Switch.
And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, and I'm done with Juggernaut. I've actually started Bendy and the Ink Machine. The game is crazy.
That looks interesting. I might want to play that myself. Yeah.
Selecting upcoming games to read a Let's Play, and finally getting involved in discussions with me and other patrons on Discord. Then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
All right, everybody. We will catch everybody on Thursday for another episode of Corrective Consciousness, where we go over some demakes and throwbacks of recent years, and have a bit of fun with those things. So we'll catch you then. Okay.
Until next time, everyone.
All right. Catch ya.